So if you watched my playoff prediction video, you might have noticed that I've actually predicted the Eagles to win this game, even though they lost two more games in the regular season than the Seahawks did. And you also might be a little bit surprised by that, just because I said that even though the Seahawks have actually beaten the Philadelphia Eagles earlier this year. But there's a big reason why I think that they're going to still find a way to win this game, and it actually really comes from the running game. So let's start off with just a couple of plays. This was in the first quarter of that game, where, like this one, for example, there's going to be three one-on-one matchups right there, where the left guard will just go up the block a linebacker, and then their center and their left tackle just have one-on-one matchups. But watch what's going on with Quentin Jefferson right there, who's actually a pretty decent player, even though he is probably best known for nearly getting into a fight in the stands. But watch what he's going to do here. He's just going to dominate his one-on-one matchup. Notice how far back he pushes his assigned man. I mean, that's Jason Peters. That's not some scrub off the streets, but Jefferson was able to really win that matchup. I mean, and again, I think if you watch all of these plays, you'll see Peters, win a good percentage of the matchups, but these Seattle defenders can be really good sometimes, especially in the running game and stopping the run, so you do have to be a little bit careful of that. Because now Sanders doesn't really have anywhere to go, and he's going to try to gain some yards, but he actually does gain 2 yards, but just it wasn't able to be a great run, just largely because of that one play by Jefferson. This was happening a lot for Seattle. Seattle was doing a great job of their defensive linemen winning their one-on-one matchups. This play is another very good example of a defensive lineman just really stepping up, where the way this play is going to work for Philadelphia is they're going to have both of their guards run out the block those two Seattle defenders who are right over there. And if you're thinking why a guard and not a center, the reason for that is because they're going to have their center actually pull around to the left side of the screen. It makes some sense. I mean, you don't want to have your center get his hands up and have a one-on-one matchup. That's kind of a tough situation. Just a situation you want to avoid. And so if you can just pull him around, that can allow him time to get his hands up, and you have now a guard who has plenty of time to get his hands up to run over and try to make that block. So there is some logic, but watch what that Seattle defender is going to do right there. He's going to do something very unique, where he sees the center is about to pull, and he's going to push him anyways and try to get him further back. So now at this point, the guard didn't really know exactly what he should be doing. He ran out to block a linebacker because he's like, hey, I might as well block somebody, but that's not what he was supposed to be doing, but he kind of has to, because he knows the center now is not going to be able to go over there, and also the fact that the guy who was supposed to block is now in the backfield, so all he would be doing and running over there would be pushing him backwards and getting an illegal penalty. So you can't do that, so he's kind of in a tough spot, didn't really know what to do. But basically this play was just all set up by a great play by the Seattle defense. He takes out the center, and again, doesn't actually make a tackle, but does stop Miles Sanders short, doesn't give him any room to run. And so that's basically what Seattle was doing in really the first quarter of that football game, almost even like midway through the second quarter. But finally, Philadelphia said, okay, we got to make some adjustments then, which is one of the things I love about Doug Peterson. He does do a pretty good job of making on-the-fly adjustments. I always give credit to the head coach. I mean, we all do, but obviously I mean the whole Philadelphia coaching staff, because it's obviously a group effort, and we don't really know who's the one making the exact adjustments, but they definitely made some adjustments, and it really worked out pretty well in terms of the running game. In the first half of that game, really the first 6 carries of that game, he averaged just 2.5 yards per carry. It was 15 yards on 6 carries. He was getting, for the most part, pretty shut down. However, in his last 6 carries of the game, he actually ended up getting 47 yards, which is 7.8 yards per carry. So a huge jump from the first half to the second half. And the key thing they did different was something like this. So the way this play is going to work is that, first things first, they're going to have a receiver in a jet sweep motion, which should hopefully get that Seattle defender to at least stay further back to make sure that, that receiver doesn't get wide open in case it's a pass or it is a run in his direction. So that's going to happen just right off the bat. And then there will be a one-on-one matchup against an edge rusher, but what they're doing this time is they're going to double team both interior linemen. Sometimes you'll just double team one of them, and usually even when you do that, a double team is really just a quick double team to push a player a little bit in the direction you want him to go, and then you move up to block a linebacker. But Philadelphia, they're going to double team these two guys, and they're really going to focus on getting these double teams. They're really going to focus on getting these interior linemen out of the way. They will eventually have to then move up and block a linebacker, but basically the idea is that, hey, if we wait too long to block a linebacker, we'll still gain a few yards on this play, and if we can make it perfectly, then we could gain a lot of yards, but at least we should be able to, really move the line of scrimmage up by making sure that we focus on these two double teams. And watch how well it works out. I mean, they're easily able to just push that middle of the field. Sanders actually cuts a little bit back in, but he had plenty of room to run because of the fact that they really took away those interior linemen who had been giving them trouble the entire first half. Like, watch here, they're going to do it again on this play. They're going to have their left guard and center double team an interior lineman, and their right guard and tackle who are going to double team an interior lineman. After that, they will go off to block linebackers, the left guard and right tackle will, but take a look at just how long they wait until they do that. Their primary goal is to push those interior linemen back, and that's what they're doing here. All guys are making sure that they do that. There's no way that they're going to let an interior lineman beat them on this play. So for Sanders, he can kind of just follow behind, and even though the linebackers do come in and make the tackle, he still gained a huge gain on that one, and he's quick and is hard enough to bring down that they were still able to pick up even more yards after contact. And so that's really the key difference between the first half Eagles and the second half Eagles. And, you know, they did lose that football game, but I think with this key adjustment, it should be a very different football game come wildcard weekend. I think it really could be. I mean, if you look at divisional matchups, for example, because that's kind of a similar idea where you're playing a team for the second time in the same season, there's a reason why, especially in that second game, sometimes a divisional opponent will just find a way to weirdly win a game that they shouldn't win. I mean, you know, like with the Dolphins beating the Patriots. It seemingly makes no sense. New England is much better than the Dolphins are, but sometimes just because you know how to utilize your talent a little bit better, and especially you know how to utilize your talent against an opposing team's talent, you know how to sort of counteract certain things that they do, it can be a huge advantage for you and a huge disadvantage for the team that won the first time sometimes, because you learn from your mistakes, whereas the Seahawks, they didn't make too many mistakes because they got the win. I mean, they made their share as well. Obviously, they will still be able to learn to a degree as well, but I think that this is the biggest example, but there will be plenty of little examples on both sides of guys realizing opponents' weaknesses a little bit more and trying to utilize those weaknesses a little bit more that we didn't see in the first game, because you have to make those on-the-fly adjustments. Although there was also one more thing that really was a huge difference in this game. It was actually something pretty stupid. Like, it was like, how does this keep happening? But what happened was, so there's going to be just, essentially the way it's going to work is that Philadelphia's right guard and right tackle are going to kind of block like that, where their whole goal is to get those two Seahawks to spread out essentially. But they want to fake us out or pass blocking because it'll make it a lot easier to do that. Because then what they're going to do is have Sanders just run out in between them, try to get open, and this is a screen pass basically. Pretty simple. We all get the logic behind it, but that's what they're trying to do here. And so, you know, Wentz fakes the handoff, now he's back, and Sanders is open and has room to run. There is a linebacker who realizes this right over there. He is going to try to crash in, but even so, for Wentz, I mean, you can get it to Sanders, potentially he can make a man miss and gain some yards. Even if he doesn't, it'll still go for some yards, and so, pretty good situation as of right here. However, Wentz just misses the throw. He throws it too high. I mean, maybe Sanders could have laid out for it and found a way to make the grab, but if he did that, they probably would have lost yards. So he kind of has to try to stay on his feet and make the catch. Really, Wentz just can't miss that throw. I know it was kind of actually a little bit more difficult because there was a Seattle defender in the area, so it's not like you could just throw it right there. But either way, I mean, that's a throw that Wentz usually makes. Although in this game against Seattle, he kind of struggled with that a little bit. He even missed the throw when he had Sanders wide open for what could have been a touchdown, and he just completely missed that as well. And that was another somewhat similar play. It wasn't a screen pass, but it was Sanders was running out to the flat, and Wentz just overthrew him. So, you know, you can't be missing those throws if you're going to try to win a playoff game. And I don't think that he will. I think that was more fluky than anything else, and more just an unfortunate situation for Philadelphia. So if I'm the Seahawks, I am a little bit nervous going into this game, even though I beat them the last game, because I think there are plenty of adjustments that they can make to make them play a lot better in this second game. I mean, that being said, you're still the Seahawks. You still have Russell Wilson. You still have solid defensive players. And you have a great receiving core, in my opinion. So, and also don't forget about Marshawn Lynch, who's one of my favorite players. So, there definitely are things going for you if you're Seattle. I could see this game going either way. I'm not trying to make it seem like, nope, Philadelphia is going to win, and this is exactly why, because you never know. I mean, it's the playoffs. These are basically coin flips, essentially. You never know what's going to happen, but, I mean, I think that this game should be it should be a lot more interesting than the last game. I think that this could be a lot closer. I think the Eagles will do a lot better than they did last game, that's for sure. But that's just my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thanks for watching.